Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Breaking the Silence podcast. I am your host, Allen Kharlip. I am the clinical supervisor here at Addiction Rehab Toronto. In our podcast, we talk about mental health, awareness, recovery, and the ability to navigate through challenges and showing individuals out there that there is hope. I am very, very honored today to have Jason Balgopal on our podcast today. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so I was looking into your bio and your information, and you've got quite an extensive sort of background with mental health, addiction, and I thought this would be a really amazing opportunity to have our viewers take a listen and learn a little bit about your experience, some of the accolades that you've been able to do, and how you've really been a strong proponent in mental health and recovery, and just kind of showing individuals that there's a way. So, I guess my first question to you is, what sort of got you into this line of work, and how has those challenges,
Sure.
how has those early years really paved the way for your future moving forward?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think this really started about 20 years ago. Sadly, I had a case of depression. It's not something that is unique to me. There are many people that are challenged by depression or anxiety, PTSD. I was very fortunate, though. I got a lot of help. I got a lot of professional help, both from a psychiatrist, but also at various times I took medication. I read an awful lot, a lot of books, and I had a lot of supports around me in my circle, family and friends. It was a process, though, as with most things in life, and it took about 10 years until I got into what I call a better headspace. And so about 10 years ago, in about 2015, I wanted to give back to the community. There were a lot of people I knew that were also suffering, and they had their challenges. And one of the things that I found that was missing in my web of support, and that's what I call it, a web of support. The psychiatrist is just one thread in that, a therapist is just one thread in that, and it's all a web of support. Sometimes people need to activate different threads at different times in their lives, and sometimes you need all of them at once. But one of the things that I found was missing in that web of support was the support of peers, people who would walk a mile in my shoes. I accepted what the doctor said. I accepted what the professionals said at face value, but there was also a niggling sensation that, hey, these people really haven't walked in my shoes. They don't really know what it's like for them to be depressed.
Yeah.
So what I did was I worked on my strengths, and one of the things that I'm good at is organizing. Whether it's organizing a closet or organizing people together, I organize well. And so I started off with my local community center and put a notice in the local paper and said, hey, I'm organizing a peer support group. It was originally supposed to be a once-a-month group, but after that first meeting, we had so many people come out and say they really liked it and they wanted more support, that we very quickly transitioned to a weekly support group. And that group has been going on for over 10 years now.
Wow.
We weathered the pandemic. And in fact, we got strengthened by it because we had to pivot into Zoom. And now we are able to offer our services in person and on Zoom almost every night of the week.
Wow. So you went, the hybrid approach. You're able to sort of navigate through those challenges. And, it sounds like you're growing the sector around participation, just creating a level of insight for people that are really struggling, right? And I think that's such a huge and impactful sort of direction that you can go in, because when I think of, mental health, and I think of depression, I think of, all of these concurrent disorders that are associated with, people's struggles, I think of silence. I think of being alone. I think of suffering alone, right? And, to be able to create these sort of platforms is such a huge piece for people, so that they don't feel like they're alone. And all it takes is, one person or one meeting or one group to really help them understand that, yeah, like I really belong, and this is something that I can really gravitate and connect with.
It's really important. People often feel a lot of shame about the both the diagnosis, but also a lot of shame about how the symptoms affect them and how it affects their lives. And there is no need for that. Nobody seems to have any shame of that they might have diabetes, but that's something that affects a person, and certainly not too differently from a severe case of depression. If it's left untreated, somebody with diabetes can die. Somebody with depression left untreated could die. But they are both medical conditions and things that should not cause shame in people, but they do. And that's one of the real benefits about the groups. We offer 3 really strong pillars that define what our group is about. And one of the most important things is sharing in a caring, compassionate setting. So everybody in the group has an opportunity to share with the other members of the group, who are all peers, all people who have a mental wellness challenge themselves. They get to share what's bothering them, get off their chest to people who really want to listen. I mean, my wife was a very good listener, and even she at times would say, "Gosh, I don't know what to do for you, Jason. I mean, this is beyond my scope of expertise. I don't have this experience. I don't know what to say." But the people in the group all want to be there to listen to you. The people in the group understand how important it is to have that person who's really ready, willing, and able to listen to them, be there and be there for them. The second aspect about the group is that we allow everybody to get feedback. And feedback is not what you should or shouldn't do, because we're not doctors. We don't know what you should or shouldn't do. And that's not the purpose of the groups. The purpose of the groups is not to solve problems. The purpose of the group is to give a safe space where discussing these things can be normalized. The feedback people can get will be empathy, or it might be best practices. When I was in your shoes, I found that doing X helped me. And that really allows people to feel much more comfortable about the whole process of discussing it, accepting it, internalizing it, that this is part of their life, and then being able to see that they're not alone and that other people have gone through this and found things that work for them. And that really drives a sense of hope, because it is with hope that you can strive to get better, to improve, to work on the things that will make your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned a couple of good points there. You talked a lot about the importance of, this group and this platform really being there for people to have that platform and safe space to speak. You're not necessarily solving their problems. You're there to sort of listen to understand rather than respond, which I think is so huge. Over the last 10 years, as you've seen your group sort of grow bigger and get exponentially larger and, more, what do you feel like the sort of common, themes have been, or how has that sort of changed since it first started to where we are at now as it relates to, mental health and concurrent disorders?
So I think one of the things that I've noticed is the predominant challenge that people come to us with, without a doubt, is depression and anxiety. And in many ways, those go hand in hand with each other. So many other issues that people present with that we don't necessarily address directly, such as a lot of addiction issues, are symptoms in many ways of the mental health challenges, ways of finding to deal with those demons in the mind. It definitely increased the number of people seeking our services during the pandemic. So over those last 10 years, that was a significant change in what we've seen, because people were, I think, strongly affected by what happened in the pandemic, and they needed a way of relating to other people. I think the other thing is that people are much more willing to talk about these issues now than even 10 years ago. We were really quite groundbreaking at the time to be able to put this in a local community newspaper and have a fulsome discussion about this. Now I'm finding that I have people like you who are inviting people like me onto a podcast to talk about these things, because the public is much more willing to discuss these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, right, like like these sort of support groups, the movement that we're seeing around mental health, around addiction, around, the struggle, it's just becoming so much easier for people to be able to, say, hey, like, me too, like, oh, wow, this is, I'm really going through this and I really need that aspect of help and support and guidance and, all that, right? So, for you as an individual that's, struggled with this and, these types of issues in your life, what do you think the most profound sort of inspirational, lesson or perspective that you've been able to sort of see within your own self as this has grown and has become such an important piece in your life?
Well, I think it's a twofold thing. One is you're not alone, and the second one is there is hope. And they go hand in hand, because when you see you're not alone, often then you can get that sense of hope within you, and it's so needed. As we talk about, people are much more willing to talk about these things, and it's true. Our groups are not there to solve problems, but we do. And I talked about 3 pillars within our group. Let me talk about the third pillar. And the third pillar of our group is that we offer free professional therapy to our regular members.
Wow.
So we take money from donations, and we funnel that to pay for a licensed therapist. And so regular members of our groups can get access to 5 sessions with a licensed therapist for free. And then they can continue on with the same therapist, if they like, for pretty much a half rate price. We can get the rate down to as low as $100 a session. And if you know anything about therapy, that's a really, really decent price. And I can get somebody into therapy within a week.
Wow.
And that's one of the challenges. Even though people are willing to talk about things more now, when they end up in a crisis or they end up in a situation where they realize, okay, I do have an issue here, I want to get help, it's sometimes really, really difficult to find a therapist and to be able to afford it. And we have now such a great virtuous circle, because the therapist of clients, we get access to therapy for our clients, and then the clients get access to therapy for free and then at a low cost. It serves everybody very well.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that is just such an inspiring and wholesome, movement to be able to give people that professional help and support, and being able to do it sort of on a sliding scale, after being able to do it for it's essentially no cost is huge. I mean, that is such a profound sort of movement and experience. How you've been able to sort of keep this rolling for such a long period of time, and where you've been able to see a client from a place of hopelessness to hope. What do you maybe say to our viewers listening today that are struggling and are having a difficult time with addiction, with mental health, with all of these concurrent disorders? What would you say to them, the viewers that are listening out there?
Without a doubt, there is hope. Don't give up. The tunnel seems dark, very dark sometime, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the things I got to say about this, though, is when you get to a position, and for me it was many years, of being able to see the highs and lows within my life, I was able then to put things in perspective. So when I ended up a trough or a downspout part, or really in the valley of life, I often couldn't see that there was more hope, that things would get better. And I needed somebody to often say to me, often my wife, hey, don't forget, 2 days ago you were feeling fantastic. You were up on top of the mountain. Now you're down in the valley. That's the way life goes. You will feel better again. And it's true. And I do need, though, somebody, and I imagine a lot of other people do, need somebody out there to say to them, listen, you're not alone. This will get better. One of the great things about the groups is that a lot of people will come and just, use the groups for what they are, but they've also created a community of friends. And so outside of the groups, people also have created friendships that support them in their journey. And that way that allows people, at times when they're need to be able to call up a friend and just say, listen, I need to chat for a bit. And it's a wonderful, wonderful community of support that way.
Amazing. And one more question for you. With your own personal experience, you are a Crown attorney. How have you found that this support and being able to be an advocate for mental health? How do you find that it's really correlated into your professional career as being a Crown attorney, and just being able to keep you motivated and just really mentally sound?
I think anytime any advocate within the criminal justice system on either side of the aisle has greater understanding and empathy for the people that are appearing in courts, it's always better. Whether it's a defendant, whether it's a victim, whether it's a witness, all of those people may come and have challenges themselves, and to be able to appreciate that people come from so many different backgrounds and have so many different challenges themselves that sometimes you just may not be able to see yourself because they're not evident on the face, and it's sometimes hidden. It gives you a better understanding to be able to say, hey, I have a sense of where you're coming from, is something that not as many advocates have as others do.
Absolutely. We're here with Jason Balgopal, the mental health advocate, and the individual that started the mental health peer support network group. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your insight, your story, and how you're able to provide people with hope and the ability to feel whole again. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I very much appreciate being on here. And if people are looking for more information, they can find it at www.mentalwellness.help.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.